Tonight, murdered while on holiday in Jamaica. Sean Patterson, a personal trainer from West London, was shot multiple times at the villa he was staying at. His family has told ITV News London their light has been taken from them.
Everywhere he went, he was loved. He just had that mannerism that took people over. And they took that light away from us.
Also ahead, the Londoners stuck in ambulance queues, waiting longer than ever to get into hospital. Why there's a stinking problem in Barnet, the streams turning into open sewers, and...
Hello, welcome to Old Spike.
Hiya.
What would you like?
Can I grab a latte, please?
The Peckham Coffee Company brewing new skills and better futures. Good evening. The father of a man from West London who was shot and killed in Jamaica says his son was loved by everyone and that the killer has taken their light away from them. Sean Patterson had flown out to go on holiday there just after Christmas when he was found with gunshot wounds at around midday on Monday in St James. The 33-year-old's family say they were told he was shot a dozen times and are calling for justice. They spoke to Rags Martel.
He made the room come to light. And they've took that light away from us.
Sean Patterson was 33. He was on holiday in Jamaica when he was shot dead.
My phone don't stop ringing. What's happened to your son, Helen? Why have they killed him? How have they killed him? First time he's come to Jamaica and they've took his life like that. It just don't. I can't comprehend, basically. I'm still trying to process this thing. That's when he got christened.
At his mother's home in Shepherd's Bush, Sean's father and brother look at old photos.
He hadn't even started to shine yet. No children yet. He just basically started to live his life. Starting to find himself. Went to Jamaica. 72 hours, he's dead. How do we comprehend with that? The whole world is missing Sean Patterson.
Sean had flown to Jamaica with a friend to see in the new year. On Monday, he was staying in this guest house when he was shot multiple times near the villa's pool. Police in Jamaica have reportedly arrested a 34-year-old man who'd previously been deported from England 10 years ago.
Sean's family say he was shot 12 times to the head and chest, and the priority now is to bring his body back to London.
We need justice. We want justice. He deserves justice because he was somebody. His name was Sean Allen Patterson. Loved by all people in West London.
Sean worked as a personal trainer and had plans to marry his long-term girlfriend.
Everywhere he went, he was loved. He just had that mannerism that took people over. And they took that light away from us. I don't know what more I can say apart from Sean, rest in peace. Please, please do, son.
Alan Patterson, Sean's father, ending that report. Next tonight, the amount of time patients spent waiting in a London ambulance outside hospital increased by more than 10% in December compared to the previous month. The figures come as the Prime Minister said he would take urgent action to help the NHS, but with patients waiting on beds in corridors and GPs driving people to hospital to avoid long ambulance waits, does that help come too late? Well, one patient who told us she had to wait for 2 hours for an ambulance after an asthma attack, only to be left in the corridor at Queen's Hospital for even longer. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
A&E staff at Queen's are used to being on the front line. Every year the hospital in Romford treats 150,000 emergency patients. But when Susie, a mother of 3, arrived in an ambulance last week after suffering a severe asthma attack at home in Rainham, she found herself in a crowded corridor.
Over 15 plus patients lined up in the corridor, some of which had had serious heart attacks, strokes, none of which were being looked after by nurses. They were being stood over by paramedic staff, 1 paramedic staff per 6 beds, might I add. No privacy, no dignity for the patients.
This picture of beds in a corridor at Queen's was taken by the daughter-in-law of a 94-year-old cancer patient. Like many hospitals, Queen's invites patients to submit reviews of their treatment to a website. It's a sort of TripAdvisor for healthcare, and the last few days reveals some disturbing stories. One person wrote, "My son was suicidal and left for over 9 hours in A&E waiting for a mental health person to see him. The department was heaving and a totally unacceptable environment for someone in that vulnerable state." Another said, "I would describe it as being in a war zone. I would not recommend this service to my worst enemy." How scared were you?
I was petrified. I was scared for my life.
No one at Queen's was willing to talk to us, but the chief executive of Barking, Havering and Redbridge University Hospitals NHS Trust gave us a statement. Matthew Traynor said, "We're sorry some of our patients are being cared for in corridors. It's not fair on them or our staff, who are doing a fantastic job in very challenging circumstances." Figures from the NHS show the delay in offloading patients from ambulances at London hospitals has gone up by almost 12% in a month. 2,500 hours were lost in 1 week alone in December.
It's been building up. This is like when it comes to the boiling point, tipping point. It didn't just happen since the pandemic. It's been building up. An example, when I joined the service, there was, I don't know, an average of about 2,000 calls a day. Now there's probably an average of 6,000 calls.
Today, the Prime Minister said the government was working to clear the backlog.
The most pressing priority we have is to move people into social care and into the communities. That will mean that we can actually get ambulances flowing as fast as we would like and make sure that people are moving into A&E as quickly as we would like them to be seen.
Susie said she didn't blame the staff at Queen's, describing them as panicked, stressed and overworked. Simon Harris, ITV News, Romford.
I'm joined now by Professor Kevin Fenton, the London Regional Director for Public Health. Professor Fenton, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I know that you're going to be talking about flu and COVID vaccines, which is obviously incredibly important at this time of year, but I have to ask you, off the back of Simon's report there that we've just been watching, this crisis at London hospitals now. We've got Londoners waiting longer than ever in ambulances. We've got them being put into hospital and waiting in corridors now. We've got people describing hospital scenes as war zones. I mean, how worried are you when you hear all of this?
Yeah, we're really concerned. And as you know, we had anticipated and predicted that this would be one of the most challenging winters we have on record, in part because of us emerging from this latest phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, increases in flu, resurgence of COVID and other respiratory infections at this time. Plus, as you've heard from in the report, the backlog of treatment and care needed for patients who weren't seen over the past 2.5 years. So this is unfortunately the perfect storm. And that is why at this time, our messages to Londoners remain consistent. Do what you can to get vaccinated, reduce your risk of infection, do what you can to ensure that you're using services appropriately, for example, calling 111, and ensure that we continue to reduce risks when it comes to flu and COVID as we go through the winter. All of these efforts are really needed right now to help to reduce the pressures on the NHS.
Yeah, and Professor Fenton, we take that advice on board, and clearly we understand all the pressures. You describe it as a perfect storm right now. Rishi Sunak saying that certainly he's making it one of his priorities at the moment. But, a lot of Londoners are watching tonight and they're seeing what is happening, and they are genuinely scared. They have real concerns if they do feel really ill. What should they do? GPs are under pressure, hospitals are under pressure, now ambulance services are under pressure. How do you make them feel at all comforted if they are really ill? What do they do? What do they do?
Yeah, well, as you heard in the Prime Minister's statement, that there are a number of things which are currently in place, both working with hospital systems to ensure there's better throughput, getting people through services into social care, discharge back in the community. We're doing work with Londoners in preventing and ensuring that people are getting vaccinated, they're taking care of their long-term conditions such as hypertension, diabetes. All of these things help to reduce demand on services. And most importantly, ensuring that we have the staff available. As infection rates for COVID and flu increase, it means that more staff are unwell and on sick leave. And that creates additional pressures on services as well.
That is an additional pressure, isn't it? And another pressure is you're saying, people, if you do feeling ill, go and get treatment, go and see pharmacists as well, ease the pressure slightly off GPs. Now, we've had pharmacists warning of a shortage of cough and cold medicines that are available as these winter bugs continue to spread. What's the contingency plan there then?
Well, again, this is really a sign that we're having such high levels of transmission of flu and COVID at the moment. And that's why that's driving pressures both on emergency services and pharmacy services. Again, what we're really encouraging people to do is to ensure you have your vaccine, manage your respiratory infections as best as you can at home. And if you need any additional support, call 111, as you said, discuss with your pharmacy. But to think about ways in which we can support each other in the community to take the pressure off of clinical services. If you need to see your GP, it can be done. And if you need to go into emergency services, that is also possible. But we all have to work together.
Professor Fenton, one question. The Doctors Association is urging the Prime Minister to recall Parliament, saying that the NHS is broken. Is it? Your response?
The NHS is doing a phenomenal job at this time. There are significant challenges which we had predicted coming into the winter, and the NHS is doing its best to manage those pressures, but it will require all of us to do our part to reduce those pressures as we go through the winter.
All right, Professor Kevin Fenton, thank you very much for talking to me tonight. Thank you. There's more on those NHS pressures on the ITV News, which follows us at 6:30. Here's Mary. Wow, Mary. Next, police investigating the murder of a man in South London are urging witnesses to speak to them. 32-year-old Adrian Keyes was fatally stabbed outside the Cubana restaurant in Waterloo on the 29th of October. Officers have released photos of two men they want to speak to who they believe may have witnessed the incident but have not yet come forward. Two men who used a moped to snatch 72 mobile phones have been jailed for 4.5 years each. Randy Kavungu and Darius James both pleaded guilty to robbery and carrying an offensive weapon at Hendon Magistrates Court. And disruption continued today for people in London on another day of strike action. South Western Railway urged commuters to avoid the last trains out of London to prevent overcrowding. Tomorrow, train drivers in the ASLEF union will walk out at 15 companies. Next tonight, human remains discovered in a pond in Essex were likely to have been there for several weeks, according to police. The remains were found in Oakwood Pond in Harlow on New Year's Eve after a member of the public reported a suspicious object in the water. Well, people living nearby told our reporter Helen Keenan that the discovery makes them feel unsafe.
Human remains hidden beneath these waters for weeks. Police today dredging the pond, which they think could contain potentially crucial evidence, as forensics search the murder scene in Harlow.
It's just shocked, really.
A bit scary as well.
Yeah. Scared for my friends that live around there, because obviously if someone's going around doing these things, then it's not safe.
There's been lots and lots of police here, so it must be a big search.
Today, detectives investigating the murder went house to house as they tried to find out what happened to the victim, who they say it's too early to identify.
The cordon that's just behind me has been in place around Oakwood Pond since New Year's Eve after police were called to reports of suspicious-looking objects floating in the water. They've since revealed that they are, in fact, human remains, and they believe that they have been there for several weeks.
The operation to drain the pond is a complex one, with the increased police presence already in the area expected to continue for several days to come.
We ask the public give the police as much time as they can to get this done, because we've got to remember that this person will have loved ones and family members who at this time are unaware of what's happened.
And what are you saying to reassure residents who might be scared?
Well, the police are here, and this is a very rare incident indeed.
Forensic tests on the remains are due to take place this week, with questions surrounding not only who the victim is, but the circumstances surrounding their death. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
Still to come on the programme. Former Made in Chelsea star Caggy Dunlop is here to talk about her new London show and podcast. Plus, the coffee company helping homeless people back into work. But first, look away if you're eating dinner, because experts say some of the capital's streams and rivers are So contaminated with raw sewage, they should be carrying a health warning. A study of the Pimsbrook River in Barnet has found extremely high levels of bacteria in the water near to homes, which could cause illness in humans and animals. Increased housing and bad plumbing could be to blame, but does that mean the water companies are totally off the hook? Well, campaigners say no. From Barnet, Carolyn Sim reports.
It may look like an ideal place to live, but what runs through the stream in front of Siobhan Pearce's house is nothing short of nasty.
You just wouldn't want to be walking or playing or anywhere near it. It's just revolting, really.
Neighbours shared videos of Pimsbrook, which frequently floods, and when the water subsides, what's left is a sea of toilet paper and sanitary towels.
In the summer, in particular, the brook does smell. Here is very popular with dog walkers, and they have to be very careful at the moment that the dogs don't go in the water.
The fact that raw sewage is getting into the brook isn't new. It's been found here since the 1980s. But Dr. Veronica Edmonds-Brown from the University of Hertfordshire told me it's getting much worse. A Blue Flag beach, for example, has 500 units of bacteria per 100 millilitres. From this pipe, 85,000 units of bacteria were found.
So what's going wrong here?
Well, it's a multitude of problems, but the one we're specifically focusing on at the moment is misconnections. So this is where homeowners have plumbed things that should have gone into the sewage pipe network into the surface water pipes. And our problem here, of course, is how do you know which house is actually misconnected?
If things stay as they are...
It's getting worse year on year.
What's going to happen?
We will have more issues with gastric diseases. You may get warning signs not to enter the river.
Thames Water says it's not their job to force homeowners to fix their plumbing, but they have funded projects across London to raise awareness of the issue. But campaigners say it's not just plumbing that's to blame for the state of urban rivers.
Any more monitoring of outflows by Thames Water and other water companies is very, very welcome. We absolutely applaud it. It's not nearly enough. We could walk with you along this river and show you where all the sewage is entering, and it's a lot. It's persistent, it's consistent, and in places it's egregious, like it's in huge and frequent amounts. We report it to the Environment Agency, we report it to Thames Water, and we are not seeing enough change.
If this problem isn't resolved, the big fear is that streams like this will become sewers and the rivers they flow into will deteriorate further, causing risks to health. Dr. Edmonds-Brown wants new rules to make sure all homes have the correct plumbing, to ensure it's safe for everyone to enjoy London's urban waterways. Carolyn Sim, ITV News, Barnet.
Next tonight, the co-chair of West Ham Football Club, David Gold, has died following a short illness. A lifelong fan of the club, he grew up directly opposite the bowling ground, West Ham's former stadium, and played for the club's boys and youth teams. His family said the 86-year-old passed away peacefully at home. Well, Daniel Henry is outside West Ham for us tonight. And Daniel, David Gold had connections to West Ham going back decades. So really sad news for the club and, of course, for the fans tonight.
Absolutely right, Lucrezia. His connections almost from boyhood, really, as you say. Born opposite the club, went on to represent them as a teenager. And then when that football career didn't quite work out, he comes back again as a businessman this time, co-owning the club in 2010 with David Sullivan, overseeing an incredible period for the club, promotions, relegations, a cup run with the Europa League, and then the move from Upton Park to the stadium behind me, the Olympic Park, which was controversial for some. Not every fan was happy with it, but David Gold was always here. He was at every game he could get to, be it home or away. He was always there for the fans. And I think that's why we're seeing this outpouring of emotion, given that he's passed. West Ham released a statement tonight. They say that they describe him, as you said, lifelong West Ham fan. And on behalf of the club, they say that they issue their profound sorrow as they mourn the passing of David Gold. Karen Brady, who works alongside him, described him as a great man, a friend for over 30 years, and a complete gentleman. And a former player, Carlton Cole, he described David Gold as a favourite of his, always having time for people, kind and warm-hearted. West Ham are playing Leeds tonight, which is partly why the stadium behind me is dark and there are no lights here. But given what's happened to David in his passing, the lights off here almost seem appropriate.
Oh yes, Daniel, at the London Stadium. Thank you. Tottenham have signed Beth England from Chelsea on a 3.5-year deal, breaking the British transfer record. The forward joined Chelsea in 2016 from Doncaster and scored 74 goals for the West London club. The England international was also part of the Lionesses' Euro 2022 winning squad, scoring 11 goals in 21 games. Talking of Chelsea, next tonight, it's been 24 seasons since the birth of reality TV show Made in Chelsea, which followed the lives of those living on the King's Road and SW3. But you might remember some of the faces from its infancy.
I don't think he realised when he was doing what he was doing, the consequences.
Yeah.
No one ever does.
Yeah.
Just things aren't as they were.
Well, since leaving the show in 2012, former cast member Caggy Dunlop has turned her hand to music, acting and more recently podcasting. I'm very pleased to say that she joins us now. Caggy, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
You're a baby then,
I know. Quite a blast from the past, that.
It was a blast from the past. Look, I've got it, we're going to talk about everything else that you've done because a lot of time has passed in 11 years since those days. But, it was such a big show, Made in Chelsea, still is, isn't it? What was it like being involved in something like that and just living your life in such a goldfish ball, I suppose?
It was quite surreal because we were incredibly young at the time, and it was the beginning of reality TV, so I don't think we really knew what was in store for us, and our life really changed overnight. So it was an amazing chapter of my life, but yeah, reality TV wasn't for me in the long term.
It's in the past.
It's in the past.
Now, isn't it? It's in the past. And I say 11 years has passed. You've done so much, haven't you? We're going to get to the singing in a minute. And it's good. I've had a listen. It's very good. But let's talk about the podcast, because this is the most recent thing you've done. Podcasts. I think they started during lockdown, during the pandemic.
They did.
Yeah, what are they all about then?
So basically, the podcast is called Saturn Returns, and I've got the Saturn Returns book coming out in 2 weeks.
You have, yeah.
So that's a kind of extension of the podcast, but essentially it's a well-being spirituality podcast viewed through the umbrella and told through the story of astrology. So your Saturn return is something that happens in your late 20s as you navigate into your 30s, when Saturn returns to the same place in the sky it was when you were born.
Interesting.
And with it, it brings this sort of cosmic coming of age, and you kind of initiate into adulthood. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey because I've got to speak to some incredible guests and experts in this industry and cover some esoteric ground, and it's just been really...
Astrology, you say, though? So it's star signs? What star sign are you?
I'm a Taurus.
So what's it say about you? I'm an Aquarius.
You're an Aquarius. So Taurus are very grounded. I'm also Pisces moon, so you also have your moon sign and your rising sign, so that kind of creates the tapestry of a person.
You're grounded. And Aquarius, like me?
Not as grounded. Do you know what your moon and rising sign are?
I don't know. No. Is that no? I'm not that much detail, I have to say. You're the expert on that.
Yeah. So but
it's a very interesting take on things. It is. A lot of people are very obsessed about their star signs, and I do occasionally read the other things. But listen, tell me about the book as well, because the book is out. You say in 2 weeks' time. What do they get from the book that they don't get from the podcast?
A lot more of my personal story.
Okay.
So that kind of, to go back to what we just started on during the years when I was doing Made in Chelsea, it kind of starts there and like everything that I navigated during my 20s, and perhaps my experience was a little more heightened because of doing reality TV and then doing music and all these other things. But at the same time, it's really just about any girl's kind of...
It sounds like a perfect read. It's out in 2 weeks. Caggy, thank you so much for talking to me tonight. Well, finally, a Peckham-based coffee company is raising money to help 250 people at risk of homelessness getting to work. The Old Spike Roastery is trying to raise £20,000 to cover the costs of their new training facility in Loughborough Junction. Antoine Allen reports.
Hello, welcome to Old Spike. What would you like?
Can I grab a latte, please?
More than just a hot drink in cold times. Each cup of coffee sold and produced by Old Spike Roastery helps to fund their community work, training rough sleepers and those struggling to find employment.
Things were really tough for me before I started this, but now there's so much I've started doing now that I couldn't do before.
For over 2 years, Marie has struggled to find the right job, but since participating in Old Spike's programme, she's gained barista and life skills.
Marie, now you have newfound confidence to not just make coffee. Just how hopeful are you for the future?
I'm very hopeful for the future because now I have a job to look forward to now.
For Old Spike Roastery, the new year comes with new goals. The social enterprise's continued success has enabled them to move to a new location.
Richard, larger venue, bigger machine, how will this all amplify the work that you do?
Yeah, it's really exciting actually. So this machine will allow us to roast about three to four times the amount of coffee that we were previously. And for us, everything we do is based on traded income, so the coffee that we sell. So the more coffee we sell, quite simply, the more people we can help.
In 2022, 93 people went through their training programme, with 80% of them going on to employment or further education. This year, they aim to help at least 250 people.
These coffee beans will go on a transformation, but so will the people experiencing homelessness that are fortunate enough to be a part of this programme. But the programme itself does more than create more baristas. It gives people the employment skills to change their life forever.
What we found over the last 8 years of doing this, actually, that the coffee part almost isn't the most important part. It's really giving them a chance to get back into the workplace, giving them the confidence to learn a new skill. And I think a lot of people just need that kind of foot up into that to help them realise that their worth and their potential.
The cost of living crisis means more people may need this initiative. The question is how many people will have the spare change to continue treating themselves to a coffee, even one as priceless to rough sleepers as this. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
Now, the rain did hold off for some of the day, but how's it looking for later? Well, weather now, here's Millarini.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello there, good evening to you. We hold on to mild temperatures over the coming few days, but overall our weather looks quite changeable with spells of rain, windy conditions at times as well. As we head through this evening and night, it's generally dry with clear spells. The wind's dying down tonight, allowing for some pockets of mist and fog to form come dawn. Temperatures still mild but lower than they were last night. So as we head into tomorrow morning, a dry start to the day, but the cloud will gradually build through the morning, and then late morning we'll start to see some outbreaks of rain moving from the west. Nothing too heavy initially, and hopefully some breaks in that cloud from time to time to offer us up a little bit of brightness as well. Those temperatures 12 to 14 degrees Celsius. Then all change as we head through tomorrow night. We've got a cold front moving in from the west, so initially the winds will pick up ahead of that rain moving in. It will be heavy rain for a time as well, but it's short-lived because that system clears through quite quickly. Behind it, a ridge of high pressure for Friday, so it's looking like a really nice day. Bright sunny skies, generally light winds, and then through the day it'll stay mostly dry, just the chance of the odd isolated shower. Into the weekend though, it is pretty unsettled with showers or longer spells of rain. It's going to be windy through the course of the weekend as well. Those temperatures though still mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. Into next week though, still an unsettled theme, further showers in the forecast. The wind's slowly starting to die down, and those temperatures slowly dropping away as well. So mild over the next couple of days, but then gradually turning a little cooler as we head into next week. Bye-bye for now.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
And that's it. We're back with the latest after ITV News at 10. Coming up, Mary with the ITV Evening News. But from me and the rest of the London team, bye-bye.